The Enigma of Egypt's Bent Pyramid. Beyond the sealed chambers of Tutankhamun's tomb, the path returns us to the open desert, where another mystery emerges on the horizon, silent, yet unmistakably challenging in its resistance to simple explanation. Amid the sun-scorched sands of Dashur, south of Cairo, a unique monument rises alone in the vast emptiness. The Bent Pyramid stands apart, its limestone casing remarkably preserved, faintly glowing under the relentless Egyptian sun. At first glance, it resembles other pyramids, a symbol of ancient royal ambition. But a closer look reveals something distinctly unusual. Unlike the smooth, linear sides of its counterparts, the Bent Pyramid changes its slope abruptly midway. From its base, it ascends sharply then, as though pausing in hesitation. Its angle softens dramatically, narrowing upward with a different geometry altogether. This is a structure suspended between two design intentions, an architectural riddle inscribed in stone. Commissioned by Pharaoh Sneferu, the founding ruler of Egypt's 4th dynasty around 2600 BC, the Bent Pyramid represents one of humankind's earliest and most audacious endeavors in monumental construction. It stands not only as a testament to the Old Kingdom's lofty aspirations, but also to its uncertainties. Even after 4,000 years, scholars remain divided over a central question. Why does the Bent Pyramid bend? One prevailing theory argues that the shift in design stemmed from necessity rather than intention. The original steep angle, approximately 54 degrees, may have led to structural instability as the pyramid rose. Cracks and other signs of stress likely prompted a change mid-construction, reducing the slope to a safer 43 degrees to prevent collapse. In this scenario, the Bent Pyramid exemplifies the ingenuity and adaptability of ancient engineers, confronting an unprecedented challenge with pragmatic innovation. But if the change were merely reactive, why does the rest of the structure reflect such meticulous planning? Unlike many later pyramids, the Bent Pyramid retains much of its original polished casing, suggesting a deliberate and careful finish. Internally, it features intricate corridors and precisely aligned chambers. Unusually, two separate entrances lead into the pyramid, each descending to distinct burial chambers, a rare characteristic in Egyptian pyramid design. These intentional design choices seem inconsistent with the idea of an emergency correction. Could it be that the pyramid's unique form was purposefully conceived from the outset? Some scholars propose that the Bent Pyramid served as a transitional model, a bridge between the stepped pyramids of earlier dynasties and the smooth-sided pyramids later perfected at Giza. Others argue for symbolic meaning. The abrupt change in angle may represent a union of the earthly and the divine, a physical gesture toward the heavens. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, duality was central: life and death, chaos and order, earth and sky. Perhaps the Bent Pyramid's form reflects this philosophy, an eternal tension shaped in stone. More speculative theories venture further. Some suggest the pyramid acted as a cosmic marker, its angles aligned not only for structural integrity, but also with astronomical events, such as solstices or star patterns now lost to history. Could ancient architects have built not only tombs for pharaohs, but also celestial instruments to commune with the cosmos? Inside the pyramid, further enigmas await. Two offset burial chambers, disjointed passageways that lead nowhere, mysterious niches, and sealed voids, features whose purpose remains unknown. Perhaps the Bent Pyramid served as a testing ground, not just for engineering, but for sacred rituals whose meanings have long since vanished. Research continues. In recent years, non-invasive scanning technology has uncovered anomalies, hidden voids, possible corridors, and unexplained shifts in density. However, without physically excavating the monument, a step Egyptian authorities are understandably hesitant to take due to its fragility. These secrets remain tantalizingly out of reach, faintly visible behind layers of ancient stone. Contextually, it's essential to consider that Sneferu continued to pursue pyramid perfection, commissioning at least two more, including the Red Pyramid nearby, often regarded as Egypt's first true pyramid. Was the bent pyramid merely an abandoned experiment, a transitional step toward more refined structures? Or was it intended to stand precisely as it does now? Enigmatic, singular, and layered with meanings we have yet to fully grasp. The desert holds no answers. The bent pyramid remains motionless, weathered by centuries of wind and sand, yet still intact, still defiant. Its unconventional angles catch sunlight differently with each passing hour, sometimes casting long, sharp shadows across the plain, other times glowing with an ethereal warmth as dusk approaches. And as we gaze upon it, we are left with more questions than answers, questions of ambition and failure, of intention and accident, of symbolism and science. It challenges our understanding of a civilization that mastered both stone and sky, yet left behind puzzles that remain unsolved. Was the bent pyramid merely a structural miscalculation turned masterpiece? Or does it guard a deeper knowledge, a message carved in limestone, echoing across millennia, waiting for those who still listen as the Egyptian sun sets behind it? Unveiling the secrets of Giza's solar boats. From the shifting sands of Alexander's lost tomb, our journey returns to the Giza Plateau, where colossal monuments rise, familiar and imposing. Yet hidden beneath their shadows lie mysteries as profound as the pyramids themselves. In the clear light of early morning, the pyramids of Giza appear almost eternal, rising with quiet defiance against the slow advance of time. Their massive stones cast sharp, angular shadows across the golden sand. Tourists tread the ancient causeways in awe, often unaware that just beneath their feet lie extraordinary relics of Egypt's sacred past, relics not of stone, but of wood, buried in hidden pits beside the Great Pyramid. The solar boats of the pharaohs await their final journey. The story begins in 1954, when Egyptian archaeologist Kamel El-Malik made a discovery that astonished the world. While clearing debris at the base of Khufu's Great Pyramid, the largest of the three, workers uncovered a series of massive limestone blocks, tightly fitted and untouched for thousands of years. Beneath them lay something remarkable: the dismantled remains of a full-sized cedarwood ship, perfectly preserved in the dry sands. Measuring over 140 feet in length, the vessel was unlike anything previously seen. Its construction displayed a level of craftsmanship that rivaled the greatest achievements of the ancient world. The planks were sewn together with rope, a technique older than Egypt itself. When the boat was painstakingly reassembled, piece by delicate piece, it became clear that this was no ordinary vessel. It was a solar boat, a sacred craft intended to carry the pharaoh's soul through the heavens alongside Ra, the sun god. But why was it buried, perfectly intact, beneath the pyramid? And why had it been so meticulously concealed? The mainstream interpretation, grounded in ancient Egyptian religious belief, holds that the boat was intended for use in the afterlife. Pharaoh Khufu, having ruled Egypt with divine authority, would require a vessel to navigate the celestial river, to accompany the sun on its daily journey across the sky and through the perilous underworld of night. Yet this explanation, while consistent with ancient texts and tomb illustrations, leaves many questions unanswered. If the boat was merely symbolic, why was it constructed with such astonishing detail and functionality? Why build a vessel capable of actual navigation, only to bury it forever? Some scholars propose that the boat served a dual purpose. First used in ritual processions on the Nile during Khufu's life, then ritually interred as part of his funerary rites. Others point to the materials, cedar imported from distant Lebanon, as evidence of its profound significance, perhaps even indicating meanings now lost to history. The mystery deepened with the discovery of additional boat pits around the pyramids. In total, 5 pits were found near Khufu's pyramid, with others located near the smaller pyramids and mortuary complexes of his successors. In 1987, a second sealed boat pit was identified beside the Great Pyramid, its contents undisturbed. Modern excavation revealed another massive ship, preserved across millennia, confirming that these solar boats were not isolated funerary artifacts, but part of a broader, deeply significant tradition. Still, questions remain. Were all the boats meant solely for the afterlife? Or were some used in life for sacred river journeys reenacting myths of creation and rebirth? Were they purely religious symbols, or did they serve political purposes, demonstrations of the pharaoh's dominion over both the terrestrial and celestial realms? More speculative theories reach further. Some suggest that the solar boats were not simply symbolic vehicles, but embodied Egyptian cosmology in ways yet to be understood. The alignment of the pits around the Great Pyramid, precisely positioned with respect to the cardinal points, suggests intentional astronomical significance. Could the boats have played a role in rituals designed to preserve cosmic order, securing the universe's balance as the pharaoh transitioned into eternity? Even more fringe theories propose that the solar boats preserve lost knowledge of celestial navigation, or that they reflect the legacy of an older maritime culture, predating the pyramid builders and later absorbed into Egypt's expansive religious system. Yet the evidence remains fragmentary and inconclusive. No written records from Khufu's reign survive to describe the exact rituals associated with the boats. No inscriptions explain their specific purpose. We are left to piece together meaning from subtle clues, the orientation of the pits, the ship's intricate craftsmanship, and the surrounding architectural context. Today, one of Khufu's solar boats is preserved in a dedicated museum near the Great Pyramid, protected from the elements that might erase it. Standing before it, one feels the weight of Enigma. The long, elegant curve of the hull, the towering papyrus-shaped prow, the tightly woven ropes securing ancient timbers. It is a relic that speaks not only of technical mastery, but also a belief so absolute that no effort was spared to guarantee the king's passage to the next world. And yet, despite all we know, we remain acutely aware of how much we do not. Why two boats? Why differing burial methods? Were more boats once buried here, now lost to erosion and time? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, what rituals were performed in this place, beneath the silent gaze of the pyramids, in ceremonies long since swallowed by shifting sands? The Giza Plateau holds many secrets. Some lie in plain sight. Others remain buried, just out of reach. The solar boats, resting in their sacred enclosures, remind us that even in a land as thoroughly studied as Egypt, the past still whispers, elusive, fragmented, incomplete. And as we listen, we are left to wonder, what other sacred vessels, what other hidden journeys still lie waiting beneath the desert's timeless veil, beyond the grandeur of the Great Pyramid and the vast expanse of the plateau? The enigma of the lost papyrus of Thoth. As Smenker fades once more into the shadows of time, we are drawn toward a different kind of mystery, not of rulers and dynasties, but of knowledge itself. A story whispered through centuries, where myth and reality blend into something even more elusive. In the twilight of ancient Egypt, there was no greater symbol of wisdom than Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing, knowledge, and the secrets of the cosmos. To the Egyptians, Thoth was more than a scribe of the gods. He was the architect of laws, the inventor of hieroglyphs, the master of time, and the custodian of mysteries both earthly and divine. Legends speak of a sacred book, a papyrus inscribed by Thoth's own hand, containing the ultimate secrets of the universe. It is known as the Book of Thoth. Some accounts describe it as a scroll of immense power, capable of granting the reader mastery over the earth, the sea, and the heavens. Within its verses, it was said, lay spells to commune with the gods, to resurrect the dead, to see the future with unclouded eyes. It was a text so potent, so dangerous, that even the gods were said to fear its misuse. But where is it, and did it ever truly exist? Hints of the Book of Thoth survive in scattered fragments. References appear in ancient Egyptian stories, later echoed and reimagined by Greek and Roman writers. The most famous of these tales recounts how an Egyptian prince, driven by ambition and curiosity, sought out the hidden book. After trials and perils, he found it, only to be cursed by the very knowledge he sought to wield. In these stories, forbidden wisdom is never without its price. Scholars have long debated the origins and meaning of the Book of Thoth legend. Some suggest it was an allegory, a mythological warning about the dangers of seeking knowledge beyond human limits. Others believe it reflects the existence of real collections of sacred texts housed in temple libraries, attributed to Thoth in spirit, if not in fact. Indeed, ancient Egyptian temples, like those at Hermopolis, Edfu, and Abydos, once contained vast repositories of papyri. Priests recorded rituals, astronomical data, medicinal recipes, magical spells, and complex theological treatises. To the initiates who guarded these libraries, writing itself was a sacred act, a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Could it be that among these countless scrolls, there once existed a particularly revered manuscript, one that, over centuries, grew in legend until it became the lost Book of Thoth? More speculative theories suggest deeper layers. Some propose that the Book of Thoth was not merely a literary creation, but a real, singular document, a compilation of ancient wisdom drawn from a time before recorded history. A relic of a forgotten civilization, whose knowledge was absorbed and mythologized by the Egyptians. In this view, the Book of Thoth becomes not just a repository of religious lore, but a codex of cosmic principles, lost sciences, metaphysical truths, keys to powers long since faded from human reach. Fringe theories go even further. Some connect the Book of Thoth to the fabled Hall of Records, a supposed hidden archive said to lie beneath the Sphinx, safeguarding the lost knowledge of Atlantis and earlier ages. Others link it to the Hermetic tradition, the mystical writings of late antiquity that blended Egyptian, Greek, and esoteric thought, laying the philosophical foundations for later alchemy and occult practices. But these are paths that quickly leave the realm of certainties behind. In the world of verifiable archaeology, no document matching the description of the Book of Thoth has ever been found. Fragments of magical papyri exist, yes, collections like the Book of the Dead or the Coffin texts, detailing spells and rituals for the afterlife. But nothing that claims the all-encompassing, perilous power attributed to Thoth's lost manuscript. Could it be that the Book of Thoth was never meant to be found? That it was deliberately hidden or destroyed to prevent its misuse? Could it be encoded into other surviving texts, scattered in pieces across different traditions? Or did it never exist in material form at all, a myth, a symbol, an idea that haunted the ancient imagination? The sands of Egypt are silent on the matter. The libraries of the ancient world, from the great temple archives to the legendary Library of Alexandria, are mostly lost, consumed by fire, conquest, and time. Whatever secrets they held have been reduced to ash and memory. And yet the allure of the Book of Thoth persists. It speaks to something deep within us, the yearning to understand, to pierce the veil of the unknown, to touch the hidden structures that govern existence. It is a symbol of ultimate knowledge and the ultimate caution against seeking too much. Today, beneath the desert sun and within the crumbling walls of Egypt's ancient temples, we are left to wonder, did the priests once guard a book so powerful that its very survival threatened the world? Did a prince once find a scroll that unraveled his destiny? Or was it all a story, spun from the eternal human fear and desire of knowing what was never meant to be known? The lost papyrus of Thoth remains a phantom in history's long corridors. Whether real or imagined, its mystery endures, inviting each new generation to ask the same unanswerable questions as the echoes of the lost Book of Thoth fade into the silence. The subterranean enigma beneath the Sphinx. As the red stones of Neferu's pyramid fade into the shimmering heat of the desert, our attention is drawn once again to Giza, to a figure older, more enigmatic, and perhaps even more elusive than the pyramids themselves. Carved from a single ridge of limestone, the Great Sphinx of Giza rises from the plateau like a timeless sentinel. Its body, weathered and worn, stretches over 240 feet across the sands. Its face, though battered by centuries of wind and time, still gazes with silent authority toward the rising sun. No monument in Egypt inspires greater awe or deeper mystery. Yet for all its majesty above ground, it is what lies beneath the Sphinx that has stirred some of the most enduring questions. Legends of hidden chambers, buried halls, and secret tunnels have surrounded the Sphinx for millennia. Ancient texts, from the writings of Pliny the Elder to the Islamic scholars of the Middle Ages, spoke of vast subterranean complexes beneath Giza, repositories of lost knowledge, tombs of forgotten kings, and libraries built by gods or demigods before the dawn of known history. Modern archaeology has confirmed that the bedrock beneath the Sphinx is not uniformly solid. Subsurface surveys, including ground-penetrating radar scans conducted in the late 20th century, have detected anomalies, hollow spaces, fissures, and possible chambers within and beneath the monument's foundations. Some of these voids correspond to natural fractures in the limestone. Others, more tantalizingly, suggest man-made structures. One of the known features is a shaft on the back of the Sphinx, descending vertically into the bedrock. First documented in the 19th century, this shaft was later sealed for safety. Another cavity is located near the Sphinx's front paws, close to the enigmatic dream stele, an artifact erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV, which recounts a vision promising kingship in exchange for freeing the buried Sphinx from the desert sands. What was the purpose of these shafts? Were they simply maintenance tunnels, later additions by priests or tomb robbers? Or are they remnants of something much older, an earlier construction phase, or an entirely different vision of the Sphinx's original purpose? Mainstream Egyptology remains cautious. Most scholars view the voids as natural fissures or later intrusive structures with no connection to a hidden library or lost civilization. The prevailing theory holds that the Sphinx was carved during the reign of Khafra, around 2500 BC, as a guardian of his pyramid complex. In this view, the tunnels and shafts are either structural necessities or the result of later reuse during the New Kingdom and beyond. But not everyone agrees. Some researchers suggest that the weathering patterns on the Sphinx body, deep vertical fissures, and rounded erosion indicate water damage far more severe than what would be expected from mere desert wind and sand. Could it be, they ask, that the Sphinx predates Khafre's reign by thousands of years, carved in a time when the Giza Plateau was subjected to heavy rains, perhaps at the end of the last ice age over 10,000 years ago? If the Sphinx is far older than traditionally believed, then the tunnels beneath it might not be incidental features, but integral parts of an ancient design, remnants of a civilization whose memory was later overridden by dynastic Egypt. Further fueling speculation are persistent stories about a hidden hall of records, a fabled archive said to house the wisdom of a lost civilization, sealed beneath the Sphinx for safekeeping until a future age of rediscovery. This idea, popularized by 20th century mystics and fringe theorists, finds little support in academic circles. Yet it lingers, not least because the Sphinx, so battered and enigmatic, seems to invite such dreams. Excavations around the Sphinx have been limited and highly controlled. While some of the anomalies detected by modern surveys have been investigated, others remain unexplored, preserved in the name of protecting the fragile monument. Whether these hidden spaces hold archaeological treasures, natural voids, or nothing at all remains, for now, unknown. What we do know is that the Sphinx has undergone numerous phases of repair and reimagining throughout its long life. Inscriptions record restorations during the New Kingdom and even later periods, suggesting that the Sphinx was already an ancient relic by the time of Ramses II. Each generation seems to have projected its own meaning onto the statue, pharaohs, priests, pilgrims, all drawn to the mystery of its form. And so it remains today, a riddle without a final answer. When we stand before the Great Sphinx, It is impossible not to feel the weight of its silence. Its colossal paws stretch forward as if reaching across the ages. Its battered face bears the scars of forgotten centuries. Beneath it, the bedrock trembles with secrets still untold. Are the tunnels beneath the Sphinx remnants of early engineering, forgotten tombs, mere accidents of geology, or could they yet reveal a hidden chapter of human history, preserved beneath the sands, waiting for the right moment or the right question to be uncovered? In the shadows of the Sphinx, mystery endures, timeless, impenetrable, beckoning as we linger beneath the silent gaze of the Sphinx. The Dendera light bulb hypothesis, an ancient enigma in stone. As the silence surrounding Khufu's lost temple settles once more over the sands of Giza, our path leads us southward toward the green heart of Upper Egypt, where another enigma waits, carved not in absence, but in stone. Here, in the sleepy town of Dendera on the west bank of the Nile, rises one of the best preserved temples of ancient Egypt. The Temple of Hathor, goddess of love, music, and healing, is a structure of almost impossible beauty, its massive columns crowned with images of the goddess's serene face, its ceiling still painted deep blue and spangled with golden stars. And deep within this temple, tucked away in chambers few visitors reach, lies a series of strange carvings, depictions that have sparked decades of debate and wonder. Images that, to some, seem to suggest an impossible possibility, that the ancient Egyptians might have harnessed a form of electrical technology. This is the so-called Dendera light bulb theory. The carvings, located in the subterranean crypts beneath the temple, show a peculiar scene. In the reliefs, what appears to be a large bulb-shaped object is depicted with a thick stem or filament running through its center. This bulb is connected by a cable-like line to a base resembling a socket or pedestal. Figures stand around the object, holding or supporting it, while a snake emerges from its center, a serpent contained within the glowing oval. At first glance, the resemblance to a modern electric light bulb, complete with filament and wire, is striking. Could it be possible that ancient Egyptian priests possessed a knowledge of electricity long before its supposed invention in the modern age? Could the Dendera carvings be evidence of lost technology, glimpses of an understanding now buried by time? Mainstream Egyptology offers a more conservative explanation. Scholars interpret the reliefs not as depictions of advanced technology, but as religious symbolism. According to this view, the bulb-like structure represents a lotus flower from which a sacred snake, symbolizing divine energy and creation, emerges. The entire scene, they argue, is a visual metaphor rooted in the mythology of rebirth, closely tied to the daily journey of the sun god through the underworld. In this interpretation, the bulb is not a technological device, but a mythological image, a reflection of spiritual truths rather than scientific ones. Yet the light bulb theory persists. Its supporters point to the absence of soot or smoke damage on the ceilings of tombs and temples, a mystery in itself, considering the presumed reliance on oil lamps for illumination. How, they ask, could painters and carvers have worked in pitch-dark chambers without leaving traces of fire? Some propose that the Dendera crypts, hidden away and accessible only to high priests, might have contained secret knowledge or rituals known only to a few. In this view, the images could represent not just religious symbolism, but guarded depictions of technologies now forgotten. There are other curious details. In one of the reliefs, an object resembling what could be interpreted as a generator or energy source appears beneath the bulb-like shape. Figures are shown manipulating these devices with apparent precision and care. Serpents, long associated in many ancient cultures with energy, wisdom, and life force, seem to flow within the objects, suggesting movement, vitality, power. Of course, without direct evidence, without preserved devices, wiring, or detailed technical texts, the idea remains firmly in the realm of speculation. Skeptics remind us that ancient art often used surreal or non-literal imagery to convey complex spiritual concepts. The Egyptians did not draw to replicate the physical world exactly. They drew to represent ideas, cosmic truths, and divine principles. What to modern eyes resembles technology may simply be the misunderstood language of myth. Yet the Dendera carvings continue to fuel the imagination. They are a reminder of how much we do not know, of how easily ancient knowledge, practices, and meanings can slip beyond our understanding. Was it merely artistry, a sacred metaphor chiseled in stone? Or is it possible that beneath the myths of ancient Egypt, there once existed knowledge far beyond what we typically attribute to early civilizations? Today, the Temple of Hathor at Dendera remains a place of quiet wonder. Few visitors wander into the crypts, where the air grows cool and heavy with the weight of centuries. The carvings rest in the half-light, their lines still sharp after thousands of years, their secrets unspoken. Standing in the shadow of those ancient walls, beneath the heavy gaze of forgotten gods, the mind cannot help but drift. Could the ancients have glimpsed principles we are only now rediscovering? Could their temples have held more than religious devotion, repositories of knowledge passed down through guarded initiation, lost amid the rise and fall of empires? Or are we simply projecting our own modern myths onto a past that was, in truth, stranger, and in some ways even more profound than any technology we can imagine? In the silent halls of Dendera, the carvings remain, watching, waiting, inviting us, as always, to look and to wonder as we leave behind the shadowed crypts of Dendera and there. The Tepi legend, the first time of the gods. Amid the sun-baked stones of Giza, we step into a different kind of mystery, one not carved into granite or etched into monuments, but whispered through the myths and sacred texts of a civilization obsessed with origins. For the ancient Egyptians, history was not a straight line but a cycle, a never-ending dance of creation, death, and rebirth. And at the very beginning of that cycle, before kings and dynasties, before temples and pyramids, there was a time unlike any other. It was called Tepi, the first time. The ancient texts describe Tepi as a golden age when the gods themselves walked the earth, an era when divine beings ruled over Egypt, bestowing wisdom, order, and technology upon a nascent world. A time of perfect harmony when the land was new, the heavens were close, and chaos had not yet taken root. This sacred epoch was central to Egyptian cosmology. In temple inscriptions at places like Heliopolis, Abydos, and Edfu, priests recorded mythic accounts of the creation of the world, tales of the primordial mound rising from the infinite waters of Nun, of the first god bringing forth all that would exist. The gods Shu and Tefnut, Jeb and Nut, Osiris and Isis emerged in succession, shaping the heavens, the earth, and all life between. But in some accounts, the echoes of Tepi hint at more than just a mythical beginning. They speak of a tangible age, a time when knowledge and power were greater than in the eras that followed, when the gods ruled not from distant heavens, but in physical form from seats of power along the Nile. Was Tepi simply a mythological framework, an allegory of cosmic order triumphing over primal chaos? Or could it represent a memory, however distant and distorted, of an actual prehistoric civilization, a society advanced in ways now lost to history, remembered by the ancient Egyptians as the time when gods walked among men? Mainstream Egyptology interprets Tepi primarily as myth, a necessary part of Egypt's complex religious thought, which sought to anchor kingship and society in the divine. Each new pharaoh, upon ascending the throne, was ritually linked to the first time, symbolically restoring the perfect order that had been lost since the beginning. Yet some researchers, particularly those working at the fringes of traditional archaeology, propose alternative possibilities. Could the detailed references to Tepi found at multiple sites point toward a collective memory of real events so ancient that they survived only as mythic fragments in the Egyptian consciousness? There are curious hints. The ancient priest Manetho, writing in the 3rd century BC, claimed that before the dynastic kings of Egypt, the land was ruled for thousands of years by divine and semi-divine beings. His king lists, though largely dismissed by modern scholars, describe reigns so impossibly long, tens of thousands of years, that they have often been relegated to the realm of fantasy. And yet similar traditions of a golden age, an era of gods and titans, appear in the mythologies of other ancient cultures. The Sumerians spoke of the antediluvian kings, whose reigns stretched for millennia. The Greeks remembered a time of Olympian rule before the age of men. Could there have been a forgotten chapter of human history, one that ended long before the rise of dynastic Egypt around 3000 BC? A chapter erased by cataclysm or other forces now lost to time. Speculative theories connect Tepi to the idea of a lost civilization, perhaps one devastated by the cataclysmic end of the last ice age around 10,000 BC. Some propose that survivors of this ancient world seeded the early cultures of Egypt and elsewhere, carrying fragments of a once great knowledge that would later be mythologized as the deeds of gods. The Giza Plateau itself, with its unexplained architectural precision and monumental structures, is often drawn into these theories. Was the Great Sphinx, heavily weathered and mysterious in its own right, a relic of Tepi? Was it a marker left behind by an earlier civilization, later adopted and reinterpreted by the dynastic Egyptians? Mainstream scholars remain skeptical. Without solid archaeological evidence, without clear, datable artifacts or texts, such ideas must remain in the realm of speculation. Ancient civilizations, they argue, were capable of remarkable achievements without needing to invoke lost epochs or forgotten gods. And yet the myth of Tepi endures. It lingers in the stones of Egypt's oldest temples, in the rituals of its kings, and in the very language the ancient scribes used to speak of time itself, a language where the past was not behind but forever present, waiting to be restored. Today, standing amidst the ruins of Egypt's sacred sites, where worn hieroglyphs still catch the light of the setting sun, it is difficult not to feel the pull of that ancient dream. Was Tepi merely a cosmic allegory, a sacred mirror of how the Egyptians wished the world to be? Or was it a distant memory, distorted by millennia, wrapped in myth, of a time when the earth was indeed very different, and when the line between the human and the divine was far thinner than we can easily imagine? The first time remains, like so much of Egypt's legacy, a mystery carved into the bedrock of human imagination, inviting those who dare to look beyond the surface to ask what truly came before. As the distant echoes of Tepi linger in the mind, a golden age. The enigmatic role of the sea peoples in ancient Egypt's collapse, stretching across the sands and whispering of a time when ambition and divinity were carved into stone, we now turn toward an altogether different mystery, one not built of enduring monuments, but of sudden collapse and forgotten enemies. Around 1200 BC, the ancient world shuddered. In the span of just a few decades, mighty kingdoms crumbled, cities that had stood for centuries were burned and abandoned, and trade networks that once stitched together the Mediterranean unraveled into silence. Among the many theories surrounding this cataclysm, often called the Late Bronze Age collapse, one name surfaces again and again, wrapped in uncertainty and fear: the Sea Peoples. Who were these mysterious invaders, and what role did they play in the unraveling of Egypt's ancient order? The earliest clues lie in the battered records of the Egyptian New Kingdom during the reigns of Meneptah and Ramses III. On temple walls at Karnak and Medinet Habu, vivid reliefs depict fierce battles between Egyptian forces and foreign warriors arriving by sea and land, helmeted, armed with spears, their ships surging toward the Nile Delta like an unstoppable tide. Inscriptions speak of northerners coming from all lands, of enemies who laid waste to everything in their path. They describe entire confederations of peoples moving with their families, oxen, and possessions, a migrating force rather than a mere army, bent on conquest or survival, or both. Ramses III, one of Egypt's last great warrior pharaohs, claimed a decisive victory against the Sea peoples around the 1175 BC, preserving Egypt when so many neighboring civilizations fell. Yet even Egypt was not left untouched. In the wake of these conflicts, the empire contracted, wealth diminished, and the stability of the new kingdom slowly eroded. But who exactly were the Sea peoples? The Egyptian inscriptions list names like the Peliset, Jeker, Shiklish, Denyen, and Weshish, groups that scholars have tentatively linked to regions across the Mediterranean, perhaps the Aegean, Anatolia, Cyprus, and beyond. Some theories propose that these were displaced Minoans, Sardinians, Sicilians, or even peoples from as far away as the Balkans. Mainstream historians suggest that a combination of environmental stress, drought, earthquakes, famine, and internal political upheaval across the late Bronze Age world may have triggered mass migrations and societal collapse. The Sea peoples, in this view, were less the sole cause and more a symptom, opportunistic raiders and refugees taking advantage of weakened states. Yet the mystery deepens. Why did these invasions occur with such suddenness and coordination? How could once powerful kingdoms like the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, and the Canaanite city-states fall so swiftly, leaving behind little more than charred ruins and broken tablets? More speculative theories propose that the Sea peoples were not simply disorganized bands of migrants, but a highly organized coalition, possibly former mercenaries, displaced warriors, or even remnants of fallen empires seeking new lands to settle. Some have even suggested that a larger, yet unidentified civilization orchestrated these movements behind the scenes, driven by unknown forces or ambitions. In the Egyptian accounts, the Sea peoples are depicted not merely as raiders, but as a dire existential threat, an unstoppable force that could only be turned back through divine favor and royal might. The reliefs at Medinet Habu show naval battles of astonishing complexity. Ships colliding, soldiers grappling with enemies in the water, Pharaoh Ramses III standing firm as the last line between chaos and survival. Yet no detailed accounts survive from the Sea peoples themselves. No written language has been attributed to them, no cities securely identified as their homeland. Their story comes to us only through the eyes of those who fought against them, a one-sided record of a cataclysm whose full causes remain frustratingly out of reach. Today, archaeologists continue to unearth hints, traces of violent destruction layers in coastal cities, shifts in pottery styles across the Mediterranean, genetic studies of ancient remains. Each new discovery brings us closer to understanding, but the full picture remains elusive. Were the Sea peoples invaders or refugees, warriors or settlers, a symptom of a wider collapse or one of its primary causes? The mystery matters, for Egypt's confrontation with the Sea peoples marked a turning point. Though Ramses III held the line, the new kingdom would never again reach the heights of its former glory. The centralized state weakened, regional governors grew more powerful, and the slow descent into the Third Intermediate Period began, a time of fragmentation, foreign influence, and fading imperial dreams. And so, standing before the battle-scarred walls of Medinet Habu, where the victories of Ramses III are carved in triumphant relief, one cannot help but feel the tension beneath the stone, a moment when an empire faced the abyss and only just survived. The Sea peoples remain a ghost army in the annals of history, a reminder that even the mightiest civilizations are vulnerable to forces they may not fully understand. Forces of migration, of environmental change, of human ambition and desperation, forces that can reshape the world in a generation. What truly drove the Sea peoples to set sail across a crumbling world? Were they agents of destruction, harbingers of a new age, or merely survivors of a catastrophe not of their own making? The waves of history have washed away the answers, yet the questions linger, stirring among the ruins and sands, waiting, perhaps, for the day when the lost voice of the Sea peoples will finally speak again. The concealed chambers beyond Tutankhamun's tomb. Another enigma begins to stir, one that leads us deeper into the tomb itself, into spaces that may have remained unseen for over 3,000 years. The tomb of Tutankhamun, though filled with treasures beyond imagination, has always posed a quiet puzzle. Compared to the grandeur afforded to other pharaohs, his final resting place feels strangely modest, a series of tight, awkward chambers rather than the vast complexes carved for rulers before him. The paintings on the walls, though vibrant, seem hastily executed, their brushstrokes hurried, their symbolism compressed. Was this tomb truly meant for a king, or is there something more hidden just beyond the walls we can see? Buried deep in the limestone cliffs of the Valley of the Kings, Tutankhamun's tomb, officially designated KV62, was discovered in a near-miraculous state of preservation. Yet, as scholars pored over its layout and construction, inconsistencies emerged. The orientation of the burial chamber, the incomplete decoration, the unusual arrangement of artifacts, all suggest that this tomb was not originally intended for a pharaoh of his standing. It raises a tantalizing possibility that Tutankhamun was interred hastily in a space not meant for him, and that perhaps, hidden just beyond, lies a far greater secret. In 2015, a theory was proposed that reignited global fascination. British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves, studying high-resolution scans of the tomb's walls, noticed faint lines beneath the painted surfaces, traces that could indicate the presence of hidden doorways, sealed and concealed by artisans over 30 centuries ago. Reeves suggested that behind these walls might lie another chamber, or even another tomb entirely. And not just any tomb. Reeves posited that the missing burial place of Queen Nefertiti, one of Egypt's most enigmatic and powerful figures, could lie hidden behind the northern wall of Tutankhamun's burial chamber. Nefertiti, queen, co-regent, perhaps even pharaoh in her own right, vanished from historical records under mysterious circumstances. Her burial site has never been conclusively identified. Could it be that her tomb, built with all the splendor due a ruler, was repurposed after her death to accommodate the young, ill-fated Tutankhamun? The possibility electrified the archaeological world. Scans of the tomb using radar and thermal imaging seemed to reveal anomalies, cold spots, density shifts that hinted at voids behind the walls. Yet, despite several years of study, results have been conflicting. Some surveys appear to support the existence of hidden chambers. Others dismiss the anomalies as natural variations in the bedrock. Doubts began to creep in. Could the radar echo be artifacts of the scanning process itself? Could the apparent outlines of doors be merely illusions, tricks of the eye heightened by the power of suggestion? Despite the uncertainty, the idea persists, fueled by the stubborn absence of definitive answers. Even among skeptics, the theory has forced a re-evaluation of Tutankhamun's tomb. Why was it so small, so incomplete, so atypical for a pharaoh? Why do the paintings in the burial chamber depict rituals usually reserved for queens rather than kings? Why do certain stylistic features match the period of Nefertiti's reign more closely than that of Tutankhamun's? If hidden chambers do exist, what lies within them? Undisturbed rooms filled with treasures lost to history? The mummified remains of one of Egypt's greatest rulers? Or perhaps nothing at all, just empty space, its mystery born more from human hope than ancient design? More speculative ideas venture even further. Some propose that the ancient builders, aware of the political upheaval surrounding Akhenaten's religious revolution and Nefertiti's sudden disappearance, deliberately concealed her tomb, either to protect her memory or to erase it. Others suggest that secret burial chambers were a feature of royal tombs all along, intended to mislead robbers and ensure the sanctity of the pharaoh's true resting place. There is also the question of whether we should disturb whatever lies beyond. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, the tomb was not simply a resting place for the dead, it was a sacred machine for rebirth, a carefully calibrated structure designed to ensure the soul's journey into the afterlife. To breach a wall might not only risk the physical integrity of the tomb, but also disrupt the spiritual balance the ancients so meticulously sought to maintain. And yet, the pull of the unknown remains powerful. The idea that, hidden just beyond a painted wall, we might find a secret untouched since the days of the pharaohs stirs a longing that is hard to resist. To imagine that behind the stone and pigment, behind the centuries of silence, a forgotten queen might still be waiting, her story unfinished, her legacy concealed in the darkness. The tomb of Tutankhamun has already given us so much, wonders beyond imagining and mysteries that endure to this day. But it may yet hold one final secret, sealed in the bedrock of time, daring us to find it or to leave it undisturbed. As we stand before these ancient walls, we are left to wonder, does the past still guard secrets we are not yet ready to uncover? And if so, what dreams, what stories, what revelations might still sleep behind the stone, waiting for the right moment or the right hands to awaken them? The true purpose of the pyramid shafts, the lasting echoes of the pyramid texts, those ancient incantations etched deeply into stone, prompt our attention towards a new set of enigmas concealed within the pyramids themselves. This time, the puzzle is not written on the walls, but rather embedded in the very structure of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Deep within the pyramid's core, inside the king's and queen's chambers, narrow shafts cut through the immense limestone blocks. Some ascend into darkness, others end abruptly, some are carefully angled toward precise points in the sky, while others seemingly terminate in solid stone. Their measurements are exact, their positioning intentional, and yet, after centuries of research, their true function remains a mystery. What purpose did these shafts serve? What secrets might they conceal? Mainstream Egyptology posits that the shafts had either practical or ritualistic roles. One theory suggests that they were symbolic passageways, enabling the soul of the deceased pharaoh to ascend to the stars, particularly to the circumpolar constellations known to the ancient Egyptians as the imperishable ones, or towards sacred stars such as Sirius and Orion's belt. The alignment of some shafts appears to support this idea. For example, the northern shaft of the king's chamber is roughly aligned with Thuban, the North Star, circa 2500 BC, while the southern shaft aligns with Orion's belt, which is associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Shafts from the queen's chamber may have originally pointed to Sirius, linked with the goddess Isis. These celestial alignments resonate with themes found in the pyramid texts, such as the king's celestial journey and his transformation into an eternal star. However, doubts remain. If these shafts were merely symbolic, why would they be constructed with such extraordinary precision and considerable effort? Why create passageways so narrow they could only accommodate a small object, or perhaps only the spirit, if no one would ever physically use them? Adding to the enigma, some of the shafts were sealed with stone plugs. In 1993, an exploratory robot discovered a small door obstructing one of the queen's chamber shafts, adorned with two copper handles. Further exploration revealed another door beyond the first, and what appeared to be a small cavity. Were these simply structural features, or were they concealing something, artifacts, inscriptions, or clues left by the pyramid's builders? To date, no treasure, no text, and no definitive object has been discovered behind these stone barriers, only more stone, more questions, and more speculative theories. Some bolder interpretations suggest that the shafts were part of a complex ritual mechanism, designed to launch the pharaoh's soul towards specific stars at designated times. Others argue that they served an astronomical function, acting as observatories or alignment tools during construction, assisting priests in calibrating the pyramid's position in relation to the heavens with remarkable precision. Still, there are those who propose more unconventional theories, suggesting that the shafts were connected to unknown technologies, now lost, potentially involving acoustic, energetic, or metaphysical properties. Could the shafts have acted as conduits, resonators, or amplifiers for forces no longer understood? Could the Great Pyramid have served not only as a tomb or symbolic monument, but as something far more intricate? While such ideas remain outside mainstream scholarship, they persist, driven by the undeniable engineering brilliance of the ancient builders and the unresolved mystery of the shafts themselves. Another puzzle is the issue of access. The shafts are far too small for a human to enter, measuring only about 8 inches in diameter, implying that whatever their intended purpose was, it did not involve physical passage. Yet, the precision with which they were built, carved through massive internal blocks at consistent angles, suggests intentional planning from the pyramid's design phase. Were the shafts intended for ceremonial purposes, navigation, protection, or something beyond our current comprehension? Today, the shafts remain mostly inaccessible, their full paths mapped only by robots and remote cameras. Their secrets, if they hold any, remain locked behind ancient stone doors, tantalizingly close yet still just beyond reach. Standing within the silent chambers of the Great Pyramid, feeling the heavy weight of stone surrounding you, one is struck not only by the scale of the achievement, but by the deliberate mystery embedded into every corridor, every block, every concealed shaft. The pyramid is not a simple structure, it is a layered creation, an intricate fusion of matter and meaning, form and enigma. Were the shafts a testament to the Egyptians' knowledge of the cosmos, a technical feature forgotten over time, or do they reflect a deeper, ancient wisdom preserved at the heart of the world's most enduring monument? We may never know for certain. The Great Pyramid, like the desert surrounding it, guards its truths fiercely, offering only glimpses to those who seek. And so, we are left to wonder, are the shafts silent corridors for the soul, delicate pathways to the stars, or do they continue to communicate in a language we have yet to decipher? As we depart from the silent stone shafts deep within the Great Pyramid, conduits to the unknown, their mystery endures. The purpose of the smaller pyramids at Giza. In the desert sands of Giza, a quieter mystery resides, one that is easily overlooked but equally captivating. Adjacent to the massive base of Khufu's pyramid, 3 smaller pyramids stand in a solemn line, their weathered stones worn by centuries of wind and sun. At first glance, these pyramids appear as mere echoes, miniature versions of their colossal neighbor. Many visitors pass them by, drawn to the towering monuments that dominate the horizon. However, these smaller pyramids, modest in size yet brimming with unanswered questions, possess secrets that continue to challenge our understanding of Egypt's most iconic site. Historically known as the Queen's Pyramids, these structures have long been thought to contain the remains of royal women, possibly consorts or daughters of Pharaoh Khufu. Excavations have uncovered evidence supporting this theory, such as fragments of sarcophagi and inscriptions that mention queens like Hedephirs, Merits, and Hanutem. Though the internal layouts are simpler compared to the Great Pyramid, they follow familiar patterns of burial chambers and descending passageways, suggesting a funerary purpose. Yet, even these foundational ideas are not without dispute. One of the 3 pyramids, for instance, shows no evidence of having been used for burial. No remains have been found inside it, prompting some to question whether the intended occupant was buried elsewhere or if the pyramid served an entirely different function. There is more to consider. The alignment and proportions of the Queen's Pyramid suggest an intentional design that could carry symbolic meaning. Each pyramid is strategically placed in relation to the Great Pyramid and the broader Giza complex, not scattered arbitrarily, but arranged with geometric harmony. Perhaps they reflect celestial patterns or religious principles that are now only partially understood. Could these small pyramids have had a purpose beyond simple tombs? Were they integral components of a larger spiritual scheme, intended to channel divine energies between the heavens and the earth? Some scholars propose that the Queen's Pyramids, along with their associated causeways and mortuary temples, played a vital role in Khufu's afterlife journey. According to ancient Egyptian beliefs, the king's passage into eternity was not a solitary event, but part of a well-organized series of rituals that involved the participation of royal women, queens, and priestesses, whose roles extended into the spiritual realm. Were these pyramids designed to anchor that connection, binding the king's soul to both the earth and the sky, ensuring the eternal cycle of rebirth? Speculative ideas stretch the mystery even further. Some suggest that the smaller pyramids were not markers for individuals but represented cosmological concepts. Perhaps they symbolized the stars of Orion's belt, part of an overarching astronomical plan that connected the Giza plateau to the cosmos. Others theorize that the small pyramids served as practice sites or architectural prototypes for the construction of the Great Pyramid itself, or even as part of initiatory rituals linked to the king's ascension to divine status. Additionally, there are other smaller pyramids scattered across the Giza complex, remains of structures previously thought to be satellite pyramids, cult monuments, or cenotaphs. The exact purposes of these structures remain unclear. Some may have held ritual significance, while others could have been symbolic tombs for aspects of the king's soul, such as the Ba and Ka, whose safe passage was just as critical as the physical bodies. The layers of meaning are intertwined, blurring the lines between history, religion, and mythology, with few clear answers emerging from the sands. Adding to the intrigue, the construction techniques of these smaller pyramids differ slightly from their larger counterpart. Their core blocks are rougher, their outer casings thinner, and their layout simpler. Was this due to resource limitations or urgency, or did different architects and teams oversee their creation, perhaps during a secondary phase of the larger Giza project? The answers remain buried beneath the limestone rubble and within the fragmented records of Egypt's ancient history. Today, as we stand before the Queen's pyramids, it is difficult not to feel a profound silence. These structures, overshadowed yet enduring, hint at a forgotten aspect of ancient Egyptian life, a world where women held sacred authority, where death was not an end but a passage, and where every stone placed by human hands resonated with cosmic purpose. The stones are weathered now, their fine casings stripped away by time and quarrying, yet the core mystery remains intact. Each angle, each shadow, each weathered inscription invites contemplation. What roles did these structures truly serve? Who walked these sacred causeways? What ceremonies were held here beneath the ancient stars? As we move through the Giza plateau, between the towering pyramids and these quieter, more intimate relics, we are reminded that the greatest mysteries are not always those that shout the loudest. Sometimes they are the ones that whisper just out of reach, in the spaces between the stones, in the unanswered questions. And so, we are left to ponder. Are the small pyramids of Giza merely royal tombs, or could they be part of a forgotten map, a blueprint for spiritual architecture still waiting to be understood? The enigma of the Golden Death Mask's true origins. Amidst the forgotten avenues and silent courts of Ichtai, our exploration shifts from Egypt's lost cities to an artifact that continues to fascinate the world, a face sculpted from gold, yet enshrouded in mysteries that have endured for centuries. The Golden Death Mask of ancient Egypt, with its haunting and eternal gleam, remains one of the civilization's most iconic symbols of its profound belief in the afterlife. Most people are familiar with the Mask of Tutankhamun, recognized for its delicate craftsmanship and serene youthful features. Discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter, resting on the mummy of the boy king, it quickly became the emblem of ancient Egyptian grandeur. However, beneath this mesmerizing artifact lies a web of mysteries, suggesting that the mask may not have been originally intended for Tutankhamun at all. The face, adorned with inlaid lapis lazuli eyebrows, quartz eyes, and flawless proportions, seems to emanate a divine aura. Every minute detail, from the finely crafted hieroglyphs on the back to the sacred imagery across the broad collar, points to the meticulous artistry behind it. The mask was designed to transform the wearer from a mortal ruler into Osiris, the god of the dead and eternal ruler of the afterlife. Yet, further investigation reveals troubling inconsistencies. For instance, scientific analyses, including X-ray fluorescence scans, have shown that the mask is constructed from two different types of gold, one lighter for the face and a darker, reddish hue for the collar and chest. This suggests that two separate pieces were likely joined, possibly repurposed for a burial that it was not originally meant to serve. More intriguing still are the inscriptions along the mask's shoulders. A royal cartouche, a name framed by an oval, identifies the wearer as Nebkheperur, Tutankhamun's throne name. However, closer inspection reveals subtle differences in the engraving, such as slight variations in the style of the hieroglyphs and the depth of the carving. These details imply that the original name was erased and replaced. The question then arises, who was this mask originally created for? One prominent theory suggests that the mask may have initially been crafted for Tutankhamun's mysterious predecessor, the elusive pharaoh Smenkhare. Very little is known about Smenkhare, who reigned briefly during the tumultuous final years of the Amarna period, a time when Egypt was shaken by the religious upheaval caused by Akhenaten's monotheistic reforms. Smenkhare's reign is nearly a blank page in history, with few monuments or artifacts to leave a trace. Could the golden mask, with its mature features, have been made for a different ruler, one erased from the official record, only to be reassigned to the young Tutankhamun, possibly due to political necessity? Other scholars have proposed that the mask may have originally belonged to a woman, possibly Queen Nefertiti, a potential successor to Akhenaten, who is sometimes even thought to be Nefertiti herself. The softer contours of the face, the pierced ears, and the more delicate proportions suggest a faintly feminine quality. If this is the case, the story of the mask grows even more complex. A royal artifact created at the decline of a dynasty, hastily repurposed to honor a boy king whose untimely death demanded an expedited burial. Although mainstream Egyptology acknowledges these inconsistencies, many assert that even if the mask was adapted, it was done so with great care, ensuring that sacred rites for the royal burial were respected. For the ancient Egyptians, the king's journey to the afterlife was more significant than the origin of the burial goods. Yet, the possibility that the most famous artifact in Egypt's history might be a relic of a forgotten king or queen adds a profound mystery to its beauty. This mystery also raises larger questions about Tutankhamun's tomb. Although the tomb was famously rich, it was small and hastily prepared for a king. Many of the objects found within bore signs of reuse, such as canopic jars, furniture, and jewelry, some of which may have been intended for other royals. Was Tutankhamun's death unexpected? Was his tomb thrown together from available materials meant for predecessors whose legacies had been tarnished? If so, how much of our understanding of this young pharaoh's burial, and by extension, the art, religion, and politics of his time, has been influenced by these hurried substitutions? Standing before the golden mask today, whether in the Egyptian Museum or soon in the Grand Egyptian Museum, one is struck not only by its radiant craftsmanship, but by the layers of mystery that lie hidden beneath the surface, layers of history, identity, and forgotten ambitions. The mask is undoubtedly a masterpiece of art, but it is also an enigma. Who truly gazed out from behind that immortal face? Was it the fragile boy king, Tutankhamun, or was it a forgotten ruler whose name has been lost to history, a king without a kingdom, or a queen without a future? The mask speaks through its golden gleam, but it does not reveal all. It shines under the museum lights, reflecting our faces back to us, daring us to see not only beauty, but also mystery. The enigma of the White Chapel of Senusret. Our journey through the vast expanses of geological time takes us not to the monumental pyramids or the grand scale of lost cities, but into a realm defined by precise artistry and enigma. Crafted from radiant stone, in the heart of Karnak, one of Egypt's holiest sites, stands a structure unlike any other. The White Chapel of Senusret. Reconstructed in the 20th century from scattered fragments, this gleaming monument, though modest in size, radiates a quiet majesty that belies its ancient origins. Its pale limestone walls, intricately carved with scenes of ritual and kingship, appear almost untouched by the relentless passage of millennia. Bathed in the soft golden glow of the Egyptian sun, the white chapel glows with an ethereal brilliance, silently testifying to an era when art, theology, and power were seamlessly intertwined. Constructed around 1950 BCE during the reign of Senusret I, a pharaoh of Egypt's 12th dynasty, the chapel served as a bark shrine, a resting place for the sacred boat of the god Amun during religious processions. While scholars have long admired its craftsmanship and cultural significance, questions regarding its true purpose and its mysterious fate persist. Why was such a masterpiece dismantled and buried, only to be forgotten for nearly 4,000 years? Historical records suggest that the White Chapel was part of a much larger sacred complex at Karnak, a vast temple dedicated to the worship of Amun, king of the gods. Senusret I's reign was marked by consolidation and religious revival, and the creation of such a finely crafted shrine would have been both a political and spiritual gesture, reinforcing the pharaoh's divine mandate and his connection with the gods. The carvings on the chapel's walls are masterpieces of precision, depicting Senusret I receiving blessings from various deities, offering ritual gifts, and embracing the divine figures who protected his rule. Hieroglyphic inscriptions record the names of Egyptian Nome's provinces, emphasizing the unity and order that the king brought to his land. However, centuries after its construction, the White Chapel vanished. Archaeological evidence indicates that during the New Kingdom, perhaps under the reign of Amenhotep III or later pharaohs, the White Chapel was dismantled, with its stones repurposed for new construction projects at Karnak. The chapel was buried deep within the foundations of a pylon, forgotten as new monuments rose above it. Why would later rulers destroy such a carefully crafted monument? Mainstream theories suggest pragmatic reasons. The need for building materials, the shifting priorities of evolving religious and political centers, or the desire to surpass earlier dynasties with grander projects. In a world where temples were constantly renewed, expanded, and repurposed, even sacred structures could be sacrificed to the ambitions of future kings. Yet, some scholars propose deeper motivations. Perhaps the ideological shifts between dynasties played a role. As Egypt's theology evolved, with new gods rising to prominence and political centers shifting, monuments from previous eras may have been seen as obsolete or even threatening. Dismantling them could have been more than just practical. It may have symbolized the transfer of power and divine favor to the new rulers and their orders. Others speculate that Senusret I's association with Amun, whose cult grew significantly in later centuries, might have become problematic as theological nuances changed. Could the White Chapel have represented an earlier form of Amun worship that later priests sought to obscure or redefine? Still, some propose even subtler mysteries. The near-mathematical precision of the chapel's construction, the astronomical alignments suggested by some researchers, and the symbolic arrangement of the gnome carvings all hint at knowledge encoded in stone, knowledge that may have held meanings beyond the religious narratives inscribed on its surface. Was the White Chapel merely a bark shrine, or could it have been a cosmic diagram, a microcosm of Egypt itself, or even of the universe as the ancient Egyptians understood it? The restoration of the White Chapel in the 20th century was a painstaking process, piecing together shattered fragments with care. Today, visitors to Karnak can walk through its reconstructed walls, marveling at the extraordinary quality of the reliefs, crisp lines, the subtle play of light and shadow, and the enduring power of its sacred imagery. Yet even in its restored form, the chapel retains an air of mystery. There are no definitive answers to why it was hidden, no surviving texts explaining its dismantling, and no clear record of its disappearance from public memory. It now stands as both a relic and a riddle, a whisper from an ancient era when stone spoke in languages of power, myth, and meaning that we are still struggling to fully comprehend. What ceremonies took place here, beneath the gaze of Amun and the blessings of the gnomes? What secrets were woven into its flawless geometry and sacred proportions? What other treasures of knowledge, art, and belief remain buried beneath the sands of Karnak, awaiting the careful hands and curious minds that will bring them into the light? The White Chapel of Senusret endures, serene and radiant, a fragment of an ancient dream and an invitation to contemplate what else may yet be rediscovered in the long and winding corridors of Egypt's forgotten past. As the gleaming stones of the White Chapel whisper of forgotten rituals and hidden meanings, they remind us that mysteries are never truly lost, only waiting to be unearthed once more. The forgotten port city of Thoth Heracleion. Turning our focus away from the arid desert and toward the sea, we explore a long-lost city submerged beneath the Mediterranean waters near Alexandria. This city, once a thriving and crucial nexus for Egypt's international connections, has since been consumed by time and forgotten by history. It was a place of great significance, so vital that no foreigner could visit Egypt without passing through its gates. Today, it lies beneath the waves, silent and fragmented, its story only partially revealed from beneath the silt and darkness. This is Thoth Heracleion, a forgotten city of ancient Egypt. Known by two names in antiquity, Thoth to the Egyptians and Heracleion to the Greeks, the city served as a bustling port and a bridge between Egypt and the Mediterranean world. Flourishing around the 8th century BC, it became Egypt's central hub for trade and religious activity. Here, grand temples were built to honor gods, particularly Khonsu and the Greek Heracles, whose mythic presence was said to have graced this sacred land. Merchant vessels from across the ancient world docked in its harbors, bringing with them goods, treasures, and stories that wove Thoth Heracleion into the intricate fabric of Mediterranean civilization. However, after its prime, it vanished without warning. For centuries, its existence was relegated to myths, its ruins hidden and forgotten, until 2000, when French underwater archaeologist Frank Godiot and his team uncovered anomalies using sonar scanning near Abu Qir Bay. What they uncovered stunned the world: massive statues, fallen columns, shattered temples, and the remains of a grand city preserved beneath layers of sediment. These ruins revealed themselves slowly. Enormous stone blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, were scattered across the seafloor. A colossal statue of the god Tepi, lord of the Nile's bounty, emerged from the dark waters, its serene features still visible after centuries underwater. Sphinxes, hieroglyphic inscriptions, ritual objects, and even ancient ships were found, frozen in time, each telling a tale of magnificence followed by a sudden disappearance. But why did Thoth Heracleion disappear? Geological studies suggest that the city was built upon unstable land, a mixture of clay and sand weakened by rising sea levels and earthquakes. Over time, the land became liquefied, a phenomenon called soil liquefaction, causing buildings to collapse without warning. Rising waters combined with natural disasters and changing political powers sealed the city's fate. However, some aspects of its sudden disappearance remain unclear. Why were certain statues found far from their original locations, as if thrown by some violent force? Was the collapse gradual, or was there a cataclysmic event, such as an earthquake or tsunami, that caused its destruction? Speculative theories offer additional possibilities. Some scholars suggest the city's fall may be linked to the decline of Egypt's late dynastic periods, when political fragmentation and foreign invasions left many cities vulnerable to decay. Others propose that religious changes and the rise of new gods and temples diminished the city's spiritual significance, leading to its abandonment before it was submerged. There are even those who invoke mythic narratives, comparing Thoth Heracleion's fall to that of Atlantis, a cautionary tale of a civilization's rise to greatness followed by its sudden and catastrophic end. The artifacts recovered from Thoth Heracleion offer a fascinating glimpse into a blend of Egyptian and Greek cultures. Egyptian and Greek iconography are intricately interwoven in statues and inscriptions, and legal decrees, trade agreements, and religious ceremonies recorded there reflect a fusion of traditions. Thoth's Heracleion was a convergence point of people, gods, and ideas, a living testament to the interconnectedness of ancient Mediterranean civilizations. Despite these remarkable discoveries, much of Thoth's Heracleion remains unexplored, as thick layers of silt continue to conceal its structures and treasures. Excavation is slow, hindered by technological limitations, funding, and the delicate nature of the relics, which require careful handling after centuries of submersion. Each artifact uncovered raises new questions about the city's daily life, governance, rituals, and the nature of cultural identity in the ancient Mediterranean. Standing on the shores of Abu Qir Bay, it is difficult to imagine the once thriving streets that now lie beneath the water. Markets bustling with traders from Cyprus, Phoenicia, and Greece, priests bearing sacred relics through grand processions, sailors offering prayers to Hapi for safe passage up the Nile. All are gone, yet not entirely lost. As we gaze across the waters where Thoth's Heracleion once stood proudly, we are left wondering what other secrets rest beneath the sea, waiting to be uncovered. What fragments of history lie just out of reach, preserved in the silence of the deep? The answers may still be found, hidden in the submerged streets, silent statues, and shattered vessels on the seabed, awaiting discovery by those willing to bring the past back to light. The mysterious burial site of Alexander the Great in Egypt. As the desert wind stirs, another figure, one far removed in time yet equally enveloped in mystery, draws our attention. Far from his native Macedonia, under Egypt's intense sun, Alexander the Great once walked as a living deity. His conquests spanned 3 continents, and in life, he commanded the allegiance of empires. Yet in death, his most enduring monument has remained frustratingly out of reach: the location of his final resting place. According to ancient accounts, Alexander died in 323 BC under unusual and disputed circumstances in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon. Legend claims his body was encased in a splendid gold sarcophagus and slowly transported toward Macedonia for burial. However, somewhere along the route, history diverged. The general Ptolemy, one of Alexander's most loyal commanders, redirected the funeral procession. Rather than returning the deceased king to his homeland, Ptolemy brought Alexander's remains to Egypt, the land where the young conqueror had been proclaimed the son of Amun, the living bridge between mortals and the divine. It is said that Ptolemy first placed Alexander's remains in Memphis, later transferring them to Alexandria, the resplendent new city that bore the conqueror's name. There, a grand tomb, either the Soma or possibly the Sema, was built to enshrine the fallen ruler. For centuries, Alexander's tomb stood among the greatest pilgrimage destinations of the ancient world. Roman emperors, including Julius Caesar and Augustus, journeyed to behold his embalmed corpse. Then, it vanished. The historical record grows increasingly faint. Fewer references appear, and the tomb, once renowned for its splendor, disappears from documentation by the early centuries add. Its site slipped into obscurity, perhaps buried by war, natural calamity, emerging religions, and the unceasing evolution of Alexandria. It may have been hidden under layers of history or erased entirely. What became of Alexander's tomb, and where might it rest today? For centuries, archaeologists and historians have sought it, following hints in deteriorating manuscripts, excavating neglected corners of Alexandria, and chasing spectral visions found in medieval travelogues. Some scholars believe the tomb is concealed beneath the current city, possibly under Alexandria's dense historic core, obscured by mosques, churches, or ancient ruins yet to be unearthed. Others reference the devastating earthquakes that struck Alexandria, particularly in the 4th and 8th centuries AD. Did the tomb collapse unnoticed into debris-laden ruins? Was it destroyed amid religious transitions, as Christianity supplanted older beliefs and the memory of pagan monarchs was purposefully erased? More speculative theories abound. Some argue Alexander's remains were relocated in antiquity for protection, perhaps hidden beneath the Serapeum, the Grand Temple of Serapis, or even secretly interred in a remote tomb within the Egyptian desert or Nile Delta. A few even suggest that his body, venerated for centuries, was misidentified as a saint and enshrined in a Christian church, its true identity lost over time. Intriguing fragments of evidence persist, yet none have yielded certainty. A marble piece inscribed with Alexander's name discovered in Alexandria, ancient references to a glass coffin, or a crystal, transparent sarcophagus through which his visage could still be viewed, and medieval writings describing an unnamed prophet's tomb revered in Alexandria all tantalized. But none have led to a definitive find. In recent decades, renewed excavations in Alexandria's submerged ruins and locations such as Cani el-Dika and the ancient royal district have reignited hope. Underwater archaeology has uncovered entire quarters, palaces, temples, theaters, submerged by seismic events and rising seas. Could Alexander's tomb still rest below, awaiting rediscovery by advancing technologies and meticulous explorers? Yet every new discovery seems to spawn further questions. Was the tomb looted, its golden coffin dismantled and sold in the disarray of a crumbling empire? Was it deliberately hidden and sealed by those wary of its symbolic strength? Or does it remain intact, perfectly preserved in a forgotten chamber beneath Alexandria's modern sprawl, just beyond our grasp? Alexander's mythos further complicates the search. In life, he blurred the boundary between mortal and divine. In death, his tomb may have become as legendary as its occupant, a monument forged from memory as much as from marble. The harder we see, the more elusive it seems to become, reflecting the boundless ambition of the man himself, immense, unfathomable, and eternal. Today, Alexandria thrives, layered with millennia of history: Greek, Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, and modern. Somewhere beneath its winding alleys and ancient foundations, the remains of one of history's most iconic figures may yet rest undisturbed. Or perhaps his body, like his empire, has scattered into countless fragments, merging with the very land he once ruled. The question persists, sharp and unresolved. Where lies Alexander the Great? And if his tomb were to be found, if his remains were once again touched, what revelations might they yield about the man who dared to transcend the boundaries of the known world? The waters rise, the city expands, and the past waits in stillness. And we, like so many before us, are left to wonder, is Alexander's final chapter buried beneath our feet, or has it already been lost forever to the passage of time? The vanished temple of Khufu and the silent omissions of the ancient king lists. Our journey brings us once again to the core of the Giza plateau, to a mystery concealed not in what remains, but in what has disappeared. Standing beneath the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest and most enduring of Egypt's ancient monuments, one cannot help but sense the magnitude of human ambition carved into stone. Its massive blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, are assembled with a precision that challenges the tools and methods commonly attributed to its builders. Its flawless alignment with the cardinal points, its astonishing symmetry, its silent defiance of time, all testify to a project far surpassing mere mortal pride. And yet, strangely, an essential element of this monumental complex is missing. Both ancient sources and modern archaeology confirm that Khufu's pyramid was originally part of a more extensive ceremonial landscape, a royal necropolis constructed to serve the pharaoh not only in death, but also in his journey through the afterlife. This landscape included mortuary temples, causeways, satellite pyramids, boat pits, and a valley temple that linked the entire complex to the world of the living along the banks of the Nile. Today, remnants of Khufu's mortuary temple survive, broken basalt flooring and scattered foundations worn by centuries of quarrying and erosion. But the larger valley temple, the grand structure that once received the dead king's body before its final journey to the pyramid, has never been conclusively located. How could such a vital part of Egypt's most iconic royal complex simply vanish? During the Old Kingdom, mortuary and valley temples were integral to pyramid construction. These served as the ritual heart of the funerary complex, the site for offerings, ceremonies, and the renewal of the king's divine connection. In Khafre's pyramid complex, immediately adjacent to Khufu's, these elements still remain. The Great Causeway, the Valley Temple, and the Sphinx, all intricately integrated into a grand design. In contrast, Khufu's Valley Temple remains elusive, no standing walls, no inscriptions, only subtle traces and enduring questions. One possible explanation lies in the passage of time. Over the centuries, the Giza Plateau was extensively quarried for building materials. Entire layers of casing stones, once polished to a mirror finish, were stripped away to build medieval Cairo. Temples and tombs were dismantled, their stones repurposed or lost. If Khufu's Valley Temple was indeed built near the original Nile floodplain, as some theories suggest, it would have been especially vulnerable, damaged by centuries of inundations, buried under sediment, or dismantled before accurate documentation existed. In 1930, archaeologist George Reisner proposed that a field of massive limestone blocks found east of the Great Pyramid might be the remnants of Khufu's Valley Temple. Excavations throughout the 20th and 21st centuries have uncovered more clues: foundation trenches, fragments of granite paving, but no complete layout or comprehensive reconstruction of the temple's grandeur. Was Khufu's Valley Temple simpler than those of his successors? Was it swallowed by the shifting terrain of the Nile, dismantled beyond recognition by future generations, or never even completed? There are alternative theories as well. Some posit that Khufu's Valley Temple was originally connected to the now lost structures surrounding the Sphinx. If true, it would suggest that the architectural vision during Khufu's reign extended beyond what is currently visible, encompassing a sacred landscape whose full significance lies hidden beneath layers of sand and time. Others propose that the original Valley Temple was either replaced or repurposed by subsequent dynasties, its initial function forgotten as later rulers reimagined the sacred topography of Giza to reflect their own beliefs and priorities. Still others speculate that the temple was deliberately destroyed. As dynasties rose and fell, and religious and political shifts occurred, monuments tied to earlier rulers were often defaced, dismantled, or repurposed. Could Khufu's Valley Temple have been a victim of these ancient conflicts over memory and meaning? The very absence of the temple offers a glimpse into Egypt's long and intricate relationship with its own past, a past that was both revered and at times rewritten. Today, standing at the base of the Great Pyramid, the desert wind carries whispers from the unseen. We know the pyramid was not intended to stand in isolation. It formed part of a vibrant ritual landscape, a stage for sacred rites now lost to history. Without the Valley Temple, a crucial chapter is missing in the narrative of how Khufu envisioned his eternal existence, how Egypt's priests and people once honored a divine king who ruled not only a nation but the cosmic order itself. We are left with fragments of broken stone, faint impressions in the earth, and the heavy presence of an overwhelming absence. And so, we are left to wonder, what rites were once enacted within the now vanished walls of Khufu's temple? What prayers were uttered, what offerings laid, what secrets sealed behind its erased threshold? Was the temple simply lost to time, like countless other relics of the ancient world? Or does it remain hidden still, buried beneath the modern city or under the very sands that for millennia have safeguarded Egypt's deepest mysteries? The Great Pyramid endures, silent, immovable. But the lost temple at its base reminds us that even in the face of eternity, memory is fragile, and that some of Egypt's greatest secrets lie not in what has survived, but in what has disappeared. The controversy surrounding the methods used in obelisk construction, where gods and men once walked side by side, we return to the visible marvels left by those who followed, reaching upward in stone toward the sky. Few creations capture the ambition of ancient Egypt as purely as the obelisk. Tall, slender, and carved from a single piece of stone, these monumental pillars seem to defy gravity itself. Rising from temple courtyards and sacred plazas, obelisks pointed heavenward, their tips often sheathed in electrum to catch the first rays of the sun. They were, in every sense, bridges between the mortal world and the divine. And yet, behind their elegance lies a mystery that remains unsolved. How were the ancient Egyptians able to quarry, carve, transport, and erect such colossal monoliths with the tools and technology available to them over 3,000 years ago? The mainstream explanation, drawn from inscriptions, artistic depictions, and experimental archaeology, suggests that obelisks were carved directly from bedrock using dolerite pounders, hard stones used to chip away at the granite over months or even years of relentless labor. Once freed, the massive stones were dragged over land using wooden sledges and lubricated paths of mud or water to ease their passage. Finally, they were raised upright through a system of ramps, levers, and counterweights, aided by immense teams of workers. In theory, the process is possible. Experiments have shown that, with enough manpower and determination, blocks weighing several tons can indeed be moved and lifted using primitive means. Yet, when faced with the actual scale and precision of Egypt's largest obelisks, doubts persist. How did workers carve out such enormous and delicate shapes without fracturing the stone? How were the surfaces polished to near mirror smoothness with such consistency? How were these giant monoliths lifted into vertical position without cracking under their own tremendous weight? Even moving the stones from Aswan, where the majority of obelisks were quarried, to their final locations, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away, often by river across unpredictable currents, presents logistical challenges that are staggering by any standard. Mainstream Egyptologists emphasize the ingenuity of Egyptian engineering, the use of vast labor forces, carefully planned logistics, and a profound understanding of material properties honed over generations. They point to the cultural and religious importance of the task, which would have justified the years of labor and the mobilization of thousands of workers. Still, some researchers remain skeptical that the conventional explanations tell the whole story. The precision alone raises questions. Many obelisks were not simply functional objects, they were masterpieces of craftsmanship, inscribed with delicate hieroglyphs and positioned to align with astronomical or religious principles. The margin for error in raising such a monolith upright would have been virtually non-existent. A single miscalculation, a slight imbalance, and the obelisk could have shattered under its own weight, a catastrophe of wasted years, an immense symbolic failure. More speculative theories suggest that the ancient Egyptians may have possessed knowledge or techniques now lost. Some propose the use of acoustic or vibrational technology, harnessing sound frequencies to move or soften stone, a notion hinted at in some ancient myths but lacking direct evidence. Others suggest that forgotten mechanical devices, complex rigging systems, or even principles of physics not fully appreciated by modern researchers may have played a role. The unfinished obelisk at Aswan offers tantalizing clues. There, still attached to the bedrock, lies the abandoned project, a massive crack running through its body, a reminder that even the greatest builders met limits. The tool marks visible in the quarry show clear evidence of pounding and chiseling, but they also reveal techniques whose full implications are still debated. The uniformity of the trenches, the apparent smoothness of the detachment process, the precision of the outlines. Why would the Egyptians undertake such a monumental risk, carving such immense structures without guarantees of success? And why do so many of their completed obelisks exhibit such perfect balance and finish, despite the crude tools supposedly at their disposal? Today, many of Egypt's obelisks no longer stand where they were first raised. Through centuries of conquest, trade, and diplomacy, Many have found new homes in Rome, Paris, London, Istanbul, and New York, scattered across the modern world like fragments of a forgotten ambition. Yet their original message of cosmic order, divine kingship, and human aspiration reaching for the heavens remains intact. Standing before one of these towering monuments, whether amid the ancient temples of Karnak or in the bustling plazas of Rome, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of wonder. How truly were they made? Was it simply the triumph of human determination over material impossibility? Or were there methods, understandings, practices, perhaps even entire schools of knowledge that have vanished into the long sands of history? The obelisks endure, slender and silent, their pointed tips still stretching toward the sky. And they remind us that the mysteries of Egypt are not only found in the distant past. They stand before us still, waiting, inviting us to ask the questions their makers left unanswered as the shadows of the towering obelisks. The Enigma of Ishtar, lost capital of the Middle Kingdom. Across the unusual geological scars of the Giza Plateau, whispering of a time far predating the familiar rhythms of dynastic rule, our journey turns southward toward another mystery, hidden not beneath stone monuments, but beneath fields, rivers, and the slow drifting of time. There once stood a city, a capital of kings, a heart of power and ambition during one of Egypt's greatest periods of resurgence. Its name was Ishtar, Caesar of the two lands. Today, its precise location remains lost. Ishtar was founded by Pharaoh Amenemhat I, the first ruler of the 12th dynasty, around 1975 BC, following the chaos of the First Intermediate Period, a time when Egypt had fractured into rival factions. Amenemhat sought to reunify the kingdom, to restore order, and to forge a new era of stability and prosperity. His solution was bold: a new capital, built not in the shadow of old centers like Memphis or Thebes, but in a fresh place strategically chosen to control both Upper and Lower Egypt. Ancient texts mention Ishtar by name. It was described as a thriving city, a place of administration, culture, and military strength. From here, the kings of the Middle Kingdom directed vast building projects, expanded Egypt's borders, and established a new golden age. The 12th dynasty is remembered for its powerful rulers, sophisticated literature, and enduring monuments, all of which owe their genesis to the decisions made in Ishtar. And yet, unlike Thebes, Memphis, or even forgotten cities like Tanis, Ishtar has never been found. How could the capital of such a critical period simply vanish? Most scholars agree that Ishtar must lie somewhere near the modern town of El-Lisht, between the Fayum oasis and the Nile's edge. The pyramids of Amenemhat I and his son Senusret I are located at Lisht, suggesting the royal necropolis lay close to the city. Tombs of nobles and officials, court members from the early 12th dynasty, have also been unearthed in the region. But the city itself, its palaces, its avenues, its heart, remains hidden. Some suggest that the Nile's ancient course has shifted since the Middle Kingdom, swallowing the remains of Ishtar under layers of silt and farmland. In this theory, the city's ruins lie beneath fields still tilled today, buried by centuries of annual floods and human activity. Others propose that Ishtar was never a traditional city of monumental stone, but rather a largely mud brick settlement, one designed for functionality, not eternal survival. If so, erosion, agriculture, and time could have erased its surface traces almost entirely. Yet the mystery remains larger than mere disappearance. If Ishtar was the hub of a revitalized empire, where are its administrative archives, its inscriptions, its remnants of daily life? Why, in an age known for meticulous record-keeping, does so little physical evidence of the city survive? Speculative theories inevitably arise. Some have proposed that Ishtar's location was deliberately kept secret, even in ancient times, as a defensive measure against the lingering threats of internal revolt and external invasion. Perhaps its memory was suppressed by later dynasties, jealous of the Middle Kingdom's legacy, or simply forgotten in the relentless reshaping of Egypt's political map. Others wonder whether traces of Ichtai have been found but misunderstood, mistaken for other settlements, their true significance lost beneath layers of mistaken chronology and shifting sands. Archaeologists continue to search. Remote sensing technology, ground-penetrating radar, and satellite imaging offer new hope that the ancient city might yet be located. Subtle anomalies beneath the farmland around Lish suggest complex layers of human activity, hinting at buried structures just beyond our reach. And with every discovery, a fragment of pottery, a buried wall, a faded inscription, the story grows richer, but no less mysterious. Standing in the fields south of Cairo today, there is little to suggest that this was once the seat of kings. The land is flat and fertile, laced with irrigation canals, dotted with small villages. The Nile glimmers in the distance, just as it did 4,000 years ago, winding its slow, unbroken course through history. Yet beneath the soil, the ghosts of Ichtai may still sleep, a city where pharaohs once planned conquests and great works, a place where scribes penned some of Egypt's most enduring literature, tales of loyalty, betrayal, wisdom, and sorrow. A place where a reunited Egypt once beat with new, hopeful vigor, only to fade quietly into the shadows of time. What might we learn if Ichtai were found? What forgotten chapters of Egyptian history, political struggles, religious reforms, daily life, might rise from the earth to speak once more? And perhaps more intriguingly, what deeper reasons led to its vanishing? Was Ichtai merely a casualty of time and the river's changing course? Or does its disappearance reflect a more deliberate erasure, a lost memory of political shifts, ancient fears, or cycles of rebirth and forgetting that have always shaped the Nile's long history? The fields remain silent for now, but the past has a way of stirring, sometimes when we least expect it. And so, as we look out across the flat, sunlit plain where Ichtai once thrived, we are left to wonder, is the lost city truly gone? Or is it waiting just beneath the surface, ready to share its story with those still willing to listen as we leave? And so, we are left to wonder, what other treasures of Egypt, what other symbols of eternity, carry within them stories still waiting to be uncovered? How many faces have we mistaken for others? How many histories rewritten by the hands of time, necessity, and survival? Tutankhamun's Tomb Curse, a legacy of mystery and fear. Within Egypt's maze of enigmas, another tale emerges, one that blends awe and dread inseparably. Beneath the burning intensity of the Valley of the Kings, the land itself seems to fiercely safeguard its long-held secrets. Above, rugged cliffs tower, their surfaces pale from ages of relentless sunlight and unceasing winds. Hidden in the recesses and clefts of this barren land are age-old tombs, the eternal resting places of pharaohs who once ruled with godlike dominion. It was in this place, in 1922, that British archaeologist Howard Carter stumbled upon a doorway swallowed by time, sealed shut by hands forgotten for over 3,000 years. Behind that threshold awaited a revelation, one that would capture global wonder and stir rumors of something far darker, a curse. The burial site of Tutankhamun, the young monarch of Egypt's 18th dynasty, remained astonishingly unspoiled, a rarity in a valley ransacked over centuries by tomb raiders. There, untouched in the stale, dim chamber, lay golden figurines, alabaster vessels, intricately woven linens, and a sarcophagus unlike any ever seen. It offered a rare glimpse into a vanished realm, royal grandeur, improbably preserved. Yet, with the tomb's unveiling, bizarre occurrences began to surface. The first to provoke intrigue was the death of Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's benefactor, mere months following the tomb's discovery. In Cairo, he died unexpectedly from an infected mosquito bite that became septic. On the night he passed, accounts claim that the city's lights flickered out. At his home in England, His cherished dog let out a haunting wail and collapsed, lifeless. Eager for drama, newspapers pounced on the account, birthing the concept of a pharaoh's curse. Still, Carnarvon's demise marked only the beginning. In the years that followed, numerous people involved in the excavation succumbed under odd or abrupt conditions. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, the radiologist who scanned Tutankhamun's mummy, fell to an unexplained illness. George J. Gould, a wealthy tomb visitor, developed a fever after his visit and died soon after. Arthur Mace, a crucial member of Carter's team, became gravely ill and never recovered. Was all this mere coincidence? Perhaps exposure to ancient fungi or microbes sealed within the tomb for millennia? Or did something less tangible linger there? Modern science offers plausible reasons. Research indicates that ancient, enclosed environments like tombs can harbor harmful microbes, fungi, and even airborne toxins. Egyptians used natural substances, resins, oils, linens, in burial practices, which, as they decayed in airless chambers, could create dangerous conditions. Breathing such hazards might have impaired immune systems, leading to deadly sickness. Yet many linked to the tomb, including Carter himself, lived unaffected. Carter, in fact, died peacefully over 16 years later, casting doubt on a consistent or supernatural cause. Even so, belief in the curse endures, not solely due to 20th century sensationalism, but because of the cultural framework of ancient Egypt. To them, death marked a transition into a layered afterlife filled with challenges, spells, and dangers. Curses, magical inscriptions, and protective enchantments covered tomb walls and funerary items, meant to protect the dead and deter violators. Though Tutankhamun's tomb bore no curse inscription at its entrance, Egyptians often embedded them in subtler forms, within amulets, funerary texts, or in the very act of construction itself. Might Tutankhamun's protectors have woven an unseen defense, an enduring spiritual safeguard? Others suggest more nuanced explanations. Could emotional weight, fear, guilt, have triggered psychosomatic effects? After all, the mind can act as potently as any poison. More fringe theories speculate the ancients may have mastered forgotten energy systems or scientific knowledge, building protections into the tomb's very architecture, dormant until disturbed. Such ideas, though unsupported by solid proof, continue to intrigue those convinced that science has yet to unlock all truths. Despite it all, Tutankhamun's tomb still holds a magnetic allure. Now enshrined mostly in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and soon to be displayed at the Grand Egyptian Museum, its treasures still radiate timeless magnificence. Yet nothing can truly replicate the tomb's original atmosphere, that dense, charged stillness, the weight of countless years compressed into silence. When we stand before Tutankhamun's golden mask, peaceful, immortal, gazing out through time, we ask, did modern curiosity awaken forces best left untouched? Or are the stories of curses merely shadows of our own fears, projected onto a civilization still only partly understood? Egypt's deserts remain mute, but the legends they've borne continue to murmur, daring us to ask where truth ends and myth begins, as Tutankhamun's so-called curse lingers in the echoes of imagination. The creation and creators of the Red Pyramid. In the depths of forgotten knowledge, our exploration brings us back to the enduring stone structures, focusing on one that, though often overshadowed by its more famous neighbors at Giza, holds its own secrets. Rising from the barren lands of Dashur, south of Cairo, stands the Red Pyramid, the first true smooth-sided pyramid in Egypt's history. In the stillness of the desert, its reddish limestone gleams under shifting light, casting long shadows across the sand. From afar, its graceful symmetry evokes a sense of calm permanence, a monument to an era when people dared to shape stone into everlasting forms. Yet, as we approach, questions start to arise. Who truly constructed this remarkable structure, and what knowledge or necessity inspired its creation? Traditional history attributes the Red Pyramid to Pharaoh Sneferu, the founder of Egypt's 4th dynasty, who reigned around 600 BC. Sneferu, known for his ambitious construction projects, is credited with a significant shift in pyramid architecture, moving from the earlier step forms to the smooth-sided giants that later defined Egypt's Golden Age. Archaeological evidence supports this attribution. Inscriptions near the pyramid associated with Sneferu, linking the monument to his reign with royal titles. The architectural transition from the earlier Medum and bent pyramids, both associated with Sneferu, suggests a logical development in technique, leading to the flawless geometry of the Red Pyramid. Yet, despite this, enigmas remain. The sheer scale and precision of the Red Pyramid invoke awe. Standing over 344 feet tall, with sides stretching more than 720 feet at the base, the pyramid is made of massive limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, laid with astonishing accuracy. Its internal structure, consisting of corbelled chambers and corridors, demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of weight distribution and engineering that seems to advance suddenly from earlier attempts. How did Egyptian architects and laborers achieve such mastery in just one reign? Was it the result of trial and error, learned through the failures and lessons of Sneferu's previous projects, or does the leap in design suggest lost techniques, forgotten knowledge, or influences not yet fully understood? There are intriguing details. The angle of the Red Pyramid, a gentle 43 degrees, mirrors the upper portion of the bent pyramid, suggesting a deliberate continuation rather than a new experiment. Was the Red Pyramid originally designed to correct the flaws of its predecessor, or was it part of a larger, more intricate vision for royal tombs yet to be fully revealed? Some theorists propose that the Red Pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a symbolic monument, a sacred structure aligned with cosmic forces. Its alignment with cardinal points is incredibly precise, implying not just practical engineering skill, but also astronomical knowledge. Could it be that the pyramid's creators embedded deeper meanings into the stone's geometry, establishing a connection between earth and sky, life and death, permanence and transcendence? The reddish color of the pyramid's casing stones adds another layer of intrigue. Though erosion and time have changed its original appearance, it is believed that the Red Pyramid once gleamed with a soft golden pink under the desert sun, a deliberate aesthetic choice that may have held symbolic significance. In ancient Egyptian symbolism, red was a powerful color linked to life, vitality, and sometimes chaos. Was the Red Pyramid's hue intended to invoke these complex ideas, weaving them into the very fabric of the king's eternal resting place? Despite its grandeur, the Red Pyramid today feels oddly empty. Its internal corridors, though imposing, are stark and devoid of decoration. No grand burial artifacts were found within, and no sarcophagus remains in its designated place. If Sneferu was interred there, no conclusive trace of his body or treasures has ever been identified. Why was the pyramid looted in ancient times, its riches lost to time and robbers? Was the burial ever completed, or did Sneferu, in the final moments of his reign, choose a different resting place, one that remains hidden beneath the sands? Other speculative theories present even stranger possibilities. Some suggest that the Red Pyramid was not primarily a tomb but a temple, a monument created to honor cosmic cycles, the rebirth of the sun, and the eternal balance between chaos and order. Others propose that the Red Pyramid, along with similar structures, may be much older than traditionally believed, remnants of a forgotten epoch whose true history has been concealed by later generations. While mainstream archaeology supports the traditional timeline, these fringe theories remind us how much remains unknown, how few records have survived from Egypt's earliest dynastic periods, and how easily the sands can bury centuries of human endeavor. Today, standing before the Red Pyramid, an overwhelming sense of quiet mystery persists. There are no crowds of tourists, no bustling throngs, only the vast horizon, the shifting winds, and the massive stones that refuse to reveal their secrets. The entrances stand dark and cool against the hot desert air, inviting the daring to venture into the hollow chambers inside. The stones, cut and placed with such precision, whisper of long-gone hands and minds that dream not only of kingship but of eternity. Thus, we are left to wonder, who truly envisioned this awe-inspiring structure? Was it merely the product of relentless trial and error, or was there, hidden behind the planning and the stones, a deeper understanding, a sacred knowledge of geometry, of the heavens, of the mysterious journey that begins beyond the door of death? The Red Pyramid remains enduring and enigmatic, a tribute to ancient ambition and an invitation to those who still seek the forgotten truths written in the language of stone. The legendary concealed library beneath the Sphinx. As the last remnants of the Sea People's enigmatic progress fade into the larger downfall of empires, our expedition guides us back to one of Egypt's most emblematic and mysterious landmarks, an eternal guardian, older than recollection, its gaze perpetually fixed on the horizon. The Great Sphinx of Giza, sculpted from the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau, rises with a silent, ageless authority. Its enormous form, part lion and part human, extends across 240 feet, and its weathered face, once embellished with vibrant pigments, now long faded, watches over the desert as it has for millennia, worn by wind, sand, and the slow erosion of time. The Sphinx is not simply a monument, but a puzzle, a question chiseled in stone. Beneath this ancient guardian, some claim, lies one of the greatest secrets of the ancient world. A concealed library, locked away in a forgotten era, a vault of wisdom known as the Hall of Records. The concept of a concealed chamber beneath the Sphinx is not a recent myth. Traces of it can be found in ancient traditions, medieval Arab manuscripts, and even in the mysterious assertions of early Western explorers. The idea garnered significant attention in the late 20th century as researchers, mystics, and independent archaeologists started to suggest that beneath the Sphinx, shielded for millennia, rests a treasure trove of ancient knowledge, records of a civilization far older than dynastic Egypt, perhaps even the survivors of a lost world, recalled only in legend. But is there any substance to this remarkable theory? In the early 1990s, seismic surveys carried out around the Sphinx uncovered anomalies beneath its paws and the surrounding area. These sections, where the bedrock seemed hollow or disturbed, sparked intense debates and speculations about the potential existence of cavities or chambers beneath the monument. Could these be natural fissures, ancient maintenance passages, or something more profound? Mainstream Egyptologists urge caution, asserting that these anomalies are merely geological features, natural faults, and fissures common in limestone formations. No artifacts, texts, or direct evidence of a hidden library have ever been found nearby. Additionally, conventional archaeology places the Sphinx's construction during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, around 2500 BC, a timeline that doesn't suggest the existence of a lost pre-dynastic civilization. Yet, questions remain. For example, the weathering patterns on the Sphinx's body, deep, undulating erosion often linked to water, have led some scholars to suggest that the monument's construction might date back much earlier, possibly to 70 BC, when the Giza Plateau experienced periods of heavy rainfall. If this theory holds, the origins of the Sphinx would precede the accepted history of ancient Egypt, pushing it into a period about which we know little. Could the Sphinx have been passed down to the dynastic Egyptians, a relic from ancient times, whose original purpose was forgotten, reinterpreted, and incorporated into the Egyptians' cultural narratives? If so, could it conceal artifacts or records from a civilization long vanished? Speculative theories link the Hall of Records to the myth of Atlantis, described by Plato as a powerful empire submerged beneath the sea. Some suggest that survivors of Atlantis, or another prehistoric civilization, fled to Egypt, bringing with them their knowledge of science, architecture, astronomy, and spirituality. This knowledge was then safeguarded beneath the sands. In this interpretation, the Hall of Records would be a library of stone and gold, containing texts, devices, or relics capable of rewriting the history of humanity. Yet, despite numerous attempts, no excavations beneath the Sphinx have definitively uncovered such a chamber. Permissions for deep drilling or invasive exploration near the Sphinx are tightly restricted, both to protect the monument and to preserve the fragile limestone bedrock from further degradation. It appears that the Sphinx guards its secrets closely. Today, standing in the shadow of the Sphinx, with the Great Pyramid towering behind it like a fixed sun, one feels the weight of time pressing in. The air shimmers with heat, and the desert winds carry faint whispers, fragments of forgotten prayers, lost dreams, and ancient anxieties. The Sphinx's face, eroded yet serene, gazes eastward toward the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth and eternal cycles. It poses questions but provides no answers. Was the Sphinx merely a monument to royal power, a cosmic protector, or a relic of a civilization whose memory has been erased? Does a library of ancient wisdom rest beneath its paws, or is the real mystery not buried in stone chambers but in the silence of our forgotten past? Mainstream science demands evidence, as it rightfully should. Yet the enduring allure of the hidden library speaks to something deeper, a desire not just for answers, but for a connection to a time when knowledge was revered, and the line between myth and history had not yet been drawn. Ultimately, the Sphinx remains what it has always been, a riddle, silent, patient, enduring. As the sun sets over the Giza plateau, casting long shadows over the desert floor, we are left to wonder, if the Hall of Records exists, will it ever be uncovered? Or is it a dream, a story, a possibility as eternal and elusive as the Sphinx's gaze itself? As we step away from the eternal gaze of the Sphinx and the whispered tales of the lost knowledge beneath it, the questions remain. The unusual geological phenomena on the Giza plateau. Amidst the sands of lost history, our exploration stays rooted on the Giza plateau. Yet now we shift our attention not to the monuments of human achievement, but to the land itself. Beneath the towering pyramids, beyond the decaying mastabas and quiet tombs, the Giza plateau hides secrets far older than any inscription or carved stone, secrets not written by the hand of kings, but by the forces of nature, and possibly by civilizations far more ancient than we have ever conceived. The earth at Giza holds a tale, if one knows how to listen. As we cross the plateau, one notices immediately the strange undulating patterns etched into the bedrock, the deep fissures, the unexpected erosion, and the peculiar layering of different limestone types. In certain spots, the stone is smooth and rounded, as if shaped not by desert winds, but by persistent and ancient water flows. The most famous of these anomalies surrounds the Great Sphinx. Its body, carved directly from the bedrock, shows deep vertical fissures and a rounded scallop texture, signs that some geologists, especially Dr. Robert Schoch, have argued could only have been caused by prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall. However, such rainfall hasn't touched the Giza plateau since the last ice age, sometime between 7010 BC, far earlier than the conventional date for the Sphinx's construction, around 500 BC, during Pharaoh Khafre's reign. If the erosion patterns indeed resulted from ancient rains, then the Sphinx, and possibly other features of the plateau, could be thousands of years older than previously thought, a relic of a civilization forgotten by history, standing watch through the gradual decay of time. Mainstream Egyptology remains cautious. Most scholars attribute the erosion around the Sphinx and other structures to a combination of wind, sand, and localized water runoff from flash floods. They argue that natural processes acting over thousands of years, even after construction, could account for much of the weathering seen. Yet, questions linger. Why do nearby structures, carved from the same limestone, show vastly different erosion patterns? Why does the enclosure wall surrounding the Sphinx show signs of deep water scouring, while nearby tombs and causeways, supposedly constructed later, show much less damage? Why are there distinct geological fault lines, unusual depressions, and isolated pockets of erosion scattered unevenly across the plateau? Adding to the mystery are other features: vast unexplored chambers detected through ground-penetrating radar anomalies beneath the Sphinx and around the Great Pyramid, and uneven strata suggesting massive shifts or disturbances long before the rise of Egypt's dynasties. Some researchers propose that the Giza Plateau may have been a sacred site for far longer than we realize, a place of reverence and construction even in pre-dynastic times, later adapted and reinterpreted by the pharaohs. We know from history that more speculative theories extend even further. Some suggest that the ancient builders, whether early Egyptians or a much older culture, deliberately selected the Giza Plateau not only for its prominence or location, but for its unique geological properties. The bedrock beneath Giza, with its layers of limestone interspersed with harder bands of dolomite, creates a natural resonance. Could it be that the plateau was chosen as a site of spiritual or energetic significance, a place where earth and sky, stone and star converged in ways now lost to modern understanding? Others propose that the geological anomalies are not entirely natural, suggesting that ancient builders may have reshaped the land itself, carving and altering the bedrock to suit purposes we can only guess at. Pathways, platforms, pits, and trenches cut into the living rock imply a vision far grander than just tomb construction. Were these features merely practical quarries and construction zones, or were they part of a larger sacred landscape encoded with meanings forgotten over the passing of millennia? Today, many of these geological features remain unexplored or only partially studied, shielded by shifting sands, modern development, and the understandable caution of archaeologists tasked with preserving one of humanity's greatest heritage sites. Yet the questions endure. When we walk the Giza Plateau, we are not simply traversing a man-made necropolis. We are stepping upon a geological palimpsest, a layered record of earth, climate, water, and human ambitions stretching back into prehistory. Is it possible that the story of Giza begins not with Khufu, Khafra, or Men's, but with a civilization lost to memory, whose earliest monuments were carved not in glory, but in reverence for forces older and more powerful than kings? Or are the anomalies we observe merely the patient, indifferent work of time, the slow shaping of rock by wind, water, and gravity, with no hidden messages inscribed into their forms? The answers, if they exist, lie deep beneath the limestone and sand, guarded by the same unyielding silence that has shrouded the Giza Plateau for millennia. And so, we are left to wonder, does the land itself recall a story we have forgotten? And if we listen closely enough, might it still whisper its ancient truths to those willing to hear as the winds brush across the plateau? And so, we are left to wonder, what other treasures of Egypt, what other symbols of eternity, carry within them stories still waiting to be uncovered? How many faces have we mistaken for others? How many histories rewritten by the hands of time, necessity, and survival?